All right. Good morning once again, or good day. So, welcome to another video. So, in the last video, we actually began modeling some components. I really apologize for the webcam video. I was recording from my local webcam and not from my camera. All right. So, but in this new video, that's been fixed. So, from the last video, we actually modeling some materials. So, we modeled the table and the chair, and now we're going to be modeling a cabinet. All right. So, I call that a cabinet. I don't know. So, but I did show the particular one we'll be modeling from the previous video, and that was in the similitude of this. All right, this is it. So this is what we'll be modeling. We're modeling these two sets. Modeling these two sets. So without much, let me start up a fresh document. So just Control N, save changes to dining. Give me a new file. All right, now delete that. So what I want to do now is, like I keep saying, there are different ways to model. So one thing you need to do is to identify, first of all, observe your model. So we'll start from the smaller one so that we can, easily get the shape of what we are dealing with. All right. So when you look at this shape, the simplest thing you can start with is like a box with the whole dimension. Then you can now go ahead and start, doing stuff. So this is like a box that has a pull-out job there. Then I don't know if it has another one on the other side, but let's assume it's a two-sided pull-out. So we'll assume that so that we could, just do this here, and do one on the other side, so that to enable the user have multiple options. This is longer than this one, so it makes sense that it goes two ways. All right. So that being said, you could just do it one way, your choice. Right. So you could tell what's going on here. That this top part is a piece of wood on its own. You can see the seam, how it goes all the way through. All right. And then the bottom part seems to be another piece of this. So you can see the seam going on right there. Then that means this middle part is another wood. So we could try different techniques. So, but then you could tell this is another wood in the middle. This is the opening and closing stuff, and then there's a hole here, and there's all this going on here. So you could see the basic shape of this whole thing. So one of the ways you could start this is by drawing a rectangle. Let's draw a rectangle that is 120 by 60. So first thing I'll do is to import that into my scene. So I'll just drag that shape and drop this right here. And then, of course, I'll rotate it so it stands up so I can see what I'm doing. All right, 90 degrees, do it again. All right, just leave it this way. All right, so I'll just move it to the side so I could use this part. So 90. All right, so this is quite big. So I'll do my 120 centimeters by 60 centimeters. All right, so that's it done right there. I'll just, take that closer and scale it down so I can just zoom in and continue. All right, so this is the total shape of this 60 by 160 by 120 by 60. So with that, I could just make this a thick stuff by doing 20, and I'll group that and make this a group. Then I can tell the total thickness is 42. So I'll move from this bottom, now move it up by, I'll duplicate it and move it up by 42 centimeters. All right, so that's it going up right there. Wow, that's quite big. All right, so it's not totally 42 because I moved it, so it just is 44. So I'll just move that down by 2, just 2, so that I'll make it pixel perfect 2 centimeters. Move it down by 2 centimeters, so that's, I measure that, that's exactly 42 centimeters. So 42 centimeters is 42 millimeters. It's 420 millimeters, sorry. All right, so that's that going on there, and we can see that we have another plank by this side. So, and it's inward, so I'll just measure that inward, and I'll measure that to be, you see, the first dimension is the total length, which is 600. Then the other side is what I want to do, so I'll just put comma. I won't type anything, then I'll press comma to leave the 600 there. Then I'll now type in 20. Then you see, I get that shape going on there, and I'll push pull that up all all the way till it clips. Then I'll group that as well. Make that a group. Then I'll just duplicate that to the other side. All right. So you can see how simple these kind of shapes are to model. All right. So this whole compartment is divided into three. So that means this will be at the very middle of this whole thing. So that would be 120 centimeters divided by 3. You see how I did that calculation there? That's 120, that's 1200 divided by 3. I did the thing and it actually did the calculation and gave me the dimension. All right. So I'll just take this guy and then I'll move him from his middle, duplicate him and put his middle there. All right. Now, what I did now was move. I haven't clicked any other thing. So if I press the multiply button and press 2, it will do that duplication twice. And you see automatically if I come here, it has duplicated another one. But of course, it did it through the same distance, but the distance is not really equal. So I'll just go ahead and move this and take him where he should be. All right. So I have that whole thing going on there already. All right. So that's okay. Oh, okay. The height from the ground. No one is looking longer than. Okay, so that's the height from the ground. So that means we don't know the height from here to here. So if that's 42, then I'll just say this would be 30 and the other one is 12. I think that makes sense. So I'll move this up by, let me take my dimension tool and move this up by 12. All right. Then I'll just do this, move that up to that point. And then this part, I'll just select them and then I'll just scale them up to that top part there. All right. Now it's looking more like what we are dealing with. All right. So we know that the middle is going to be empty, but I don't want it to be passed through. So what I'm just going to do for that middle is I'm just going to measure to the middle point here so that what is here is on the other side. Now, one of the things I can do for that is mirror. And I think that's exactly what I'll do. So I would literally just select all this, yeah, and I'll make them a component. I'll call it cabinet side, uh, cabinet half. I'll call it cabinet half. Then I'm just going to scale this cabinet half. Inside it, just selecting everything inside it and scale it to that first half. Then I'll come out and the cabinet half, I'll flip it along this other face, duplicate it. All right. Now I did that so that whatever I do to this side will replicate to the other side. So I'm just going to go ahead and come to this part and I would just draw a little bit of something here, just a little bit of something. Yeah, I'll just measure out some thickness. Let me say 10 instead of 20. I'll do 10. I'll do 10 outwards. 10. I'll just draw that line all the way back. All right, so I'll push that part up. All right, click that and make that a group. All right, so for this part, what I'll do now is sorry, what I'll do now is this. Now we are not seeing the inside, so but we know it's going to be pulled out. All right, so we're not really going to animate that in SketchUp, but to achieve something like this that can be pulled out, or eventually you want to make an open version, is to model the whole internal part with your mind. All right, so I could just come here and I just go ahead and draw that there, and then I would push pull this all the way up, right? Then what I will do now is I have a box, I have it as a box. So if I should select this top, let me name this as B top. Okay, this cabinet top, and I'll call this cabinet bottom. Bottom, I can spell well. And then this side will just be side, cabinet side, side one. This will be side two, and then side three. All right, so just choose a good naming convention for your elements so you don't side four. All right, and the reason for that is so that you can easily navigate them, because when you turn off something and you don't know what it is inside the group, it could be a problem. So if I turn it off and I turn this off, I could clearly still see what they are. So C top and C side is turned off. So I can see this just so I can see the inner part of what I'm modeling. All right. So this is the shape inside it. I could decide to make this slightly smaller by bringing it in by maybe 10, 10, and then 10 from this side, just so it's not touching the body of the, the wood. So I can now come in and make this, take this in by 20, and then pull this, not instead of pushing it all the way down, because I do all the way down to cut it off. So that's total of 20, 250. So I would push it all the way minus 20 so that the bottom top, the inner top and the bottom will be 20 meters, 20 millimeters thick. All right, so I'll do 230 and leave 20 so that I have some thickness going on there. So if I group this and I move this, if I group this and I move this out, I can see it has an internal part to it. All right, so that is one part done. Then I'll turn this back on. Then I will now create the finish part. All right, so for this finish part, okay, let me go ahead and undo some of that. And the reason I did that is because if you look at this part, you see that there's no space between it and there's almost no space between at the top. So I need to push this in by about 20. So I'll push this in by 20 so that I can have space. So I'll push this by 20 so I can have 20 there to form the cover. All right, then I'll do that chamfer again and push it down by 230 so I can have my 20 stuff going on there. And I'll just do that. Then I will turn back on those things. Then what I'll now do here is I will draw this rectangle from this part and I'll push it in by 20. Then if I turn off the C top and the side one, I can see I have drawn a shape that joins with that. So I make this a group and this is a group as well. So what remains is the handle. All right, so you can see the handle is a really simple handle, but I can see some bend going on there. That's some really interesting shape. Some really interesting shape. So what I'll just do is I'll just do something simple, right? Because I can't see the shape fully. I'll do something simple. I'll just draw this. All right, so I'll draw this to the. I'll put a point. I'll just save that. All right, okay, cabinet. All right, so I'll put a point here, take it up to the middle, and I'll put a point here, take it up to the middle again. All right, so I'll just draw my shape out 100 by 30. So I'll do 100 by 30. I'm drawing the rectangle from the middle. All right, so I'll just pull this out by, I'll say pull it out by 40. And I did that so that I could just do some fancy stuff. All right, so I'll just do just something simple and fancy. Do that, and okay, do that and something like this as well. All right, so with that, I could also come and do something like this. All right, so I will do something like this. Okay, what was the challenge? Is it too small? I think it's probably too small. Hmm? Hold on. All right, so with that, I have just drawn out the shape I need. So I will just go ahead and delete every other thing I do not need. All right, so I'll just push pull this to that point. Just use it to do my measurement. All right, so we have something similar to that shape going on there. So I'll call this the knob. I'll call it a knob, but I'll make this knob cabinet knob. I'll make the knob a component just in case I need to change it in one place so it will affect all the knobs. So then I'll just come and select all this, and I'll make this a component as well, and I'll call it the cabinet, the the cabinet drawer. All right, so with that I can just go ahead and duplicate this, send him to the other side. All right, just duplicate it to the other side. Then if I I close this cabinet drawer and turn back on my C side, on my C top, I have that beautiful cabinet going on there in both front and back. And but like that, if I wanted to animate this, I could just pull this drawer out, and you see it's an actual drawer, fully modeled. All right. Then that being said, I could split these two things, and before I go ahead to complete the shape of making it a cabinet component, I will need to make the legs. Right now, the legs are looking quite tricky. It's looking quite tricky, but it's not so scary. So what we'll do is the leg, let's choose somewhere that we'll project it from. First things first, let me turn off my guides. Then I'll just draw a new guide from here. Let's say 60, and I'll draw a new guide from here, 60 as well. Then I'll do a circle. I'll draw a circle, an actual circle, not a rectangle. All right, so my circle needs about 16 sides, I think. I'll commit that. All right, then I draw the circle. I'll give it a tick radius first of all. Let's see, like 40. All right, then I'll pull it down to 12. But remember, it's 12 that 12 as 120 as the total height. All right. Then I'll select this face and I'll scale this face uniformly down 5.5. So it's already giving us that shape, but then it's now slanted to the side. So I'm just going to move it perfectly to this edge, right? It's not close, it's not on that edge, but I'll just move mine to that edge just so it has that, it won't get close. So I'll select that face and I'll choose the move tool and I'll move it just to that point. All right, so you see, would it being moved to that point? You get that whole stuff going on right there. All right, so I'll just leave mine like so. I'll leave mine like so. Um, we don't have like a specific specification we're going with, so I'll just go with this. And then what I'll do is I'll make this a component. I'll call it a cabinet leg. I mean, obviously. Then this would be mirrored across the other side. So what I'll do is I'll take it into half cabinet, all right? Then when I'll just duplicate one to this point. Then so I'll just draw my midpoint so that I can do a flip. I'll just do this, all right? I'll just do this so I can have this surface for flipping. All right, so I'll just collect my flip tool and I'll just do plus and flip it the other way. And then like that, I've done the first cabinet. That is just beautiful looking. All right, so I'll just select the half and make that a component, and I'll call it the mm, center table cabinet. Forgive me if this is not a cabinet, right? But I just have it in my mind cabinet, having pockets like drawers like that. All right, so all right, so that's for the first shape. All right, so we'll continue to the second one. We'll do the second one. Maybe I'll split this into two videos from getting from the second one. All right, so but before I go to the second one, unlike before, I would start coloring it now. So I'll just go to my wood, my material. Under my material, I will choose wood. I'll go to wood and I'll get something similar. I think this is just similar to it, right? So I'll come into the component itself and I'll choose the materials that I want to make wood. Select all of them and I take my fill tool and just fill that in, all right? Then I fill the leg as well. I'll take the leg and I enter into the leg so that when I fill it, all of them, I just group that leg and then I'll fill it. I usually like applying fill to groups and not the objects directly. All right. Wow. That's some really weird situation going on there. Okay. Okay. This is funny. But I think I know what I'll do. So I'll just select these two and I'll cut them. I'll come into this place and then I'll paste it here. All right. That was some weird situation going on there. All right. So that being said, let me save that. Now, one other thing there is this cabinet doesn't actually have a color or a paint on it. It's just neutral. All right. So if I move this out, sorry. Okay, well, oh, come on. If I move this out, you can see the cabinet doesn't have anything going on there. So I could select this guy and give him that paint, first of all. Then this guy here, and let's see, the handle has the same wood color, so I'll just paint the handle. All right, then for this guy I'll come and choose maybe a synthetic surface that's white, and I'll paint that in. All right, just so I have something going down there. All right, then I'll just move that back in. All right, so like so I'm done with this first part of it. All right, so I'll just go ahead to model the second part. I'll go ahead and model the second part. And all right, so this center table cabinet has been modeled. This will be the TV stand cabinet. All right, so let's begin modeling the other one. Let's begin. So first of all, I'll hide this. I'll hide this. Let me just go ahead and hide that. Then I'll delete all the guys on the screen. All right, so we can see the total length of this. So we can see the first one is 120 and the second one is, now if you clearly look at this, yeah, you could tell that this is like a replica here, and then we now have something else being added to it. It's like a replica there, and then it's now being modified. So one thing about me is when I see stuff like this, I don't stress myself. This is 120, this is 120. I mean, what that means now is I will duplicate this. Now it's already a component, so I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate this, right? Then I'll make this one unique. I'll make this unique. Um, I'll make this a unique component. Then I think, let me just explode it. It's no longer a component now. So what I'll do is I'll take one half and delete it. I don't need the other. Okay, I need the other half because of the leg. So what I would do there is I would explode this as well. I'll explode that. All right. So I'm exploding it because I don't have symmetric looking stuff any longer. So I'm going to take this guy and delete this. I'll delete this. I'll delete this. I'll delete this guy, and this guy, and then delete this and this. All right. So you see, that's one thing about modeling. You need to learn to be dynamic, right? You need to learn to be dynamic. So I can see that this drawer is longer than this. So I'll just go ahead and push pull this. So let me see, this 390. So I'll make this like 450. So that's 450. I'll do 450. Make it wider. I'll push pull this to this point. And this guy, different things you can do, but since there would not be a wardrobe at the back here, I'll just delete this guy. And then I'll take this. I think what I could do here is now, you know, I made these like separate objects. When I exploded them, they are still separate objects. So what I could still do is I'll group this. I want to convert them back to singular objects in a sense. So I'll make this group. It's inside the group now. I'll just explode that. Then I'll clean that part up. All right, so that's one element there. So this guy as well, I'll make him a group. I'll make this guy a group. So it's C top. So I'll make them a group. I'll call it C top still. Then I'll come in and select both of them and explode it. That's to destroy the group and bring it out so that the geometry comes out. And I'll do that. And I'll do this again. This is C side. So I'll make this a group, but this should be C side 1. Make this a group, right? So I'm taking note, careful again, if you don't properly deconstruct components, right? Like this component still is a component on its own. And because it's a component, if I edit it, it edits every other place. So you need to take note of things that are still component. Like this draw now, if I still edit it here, it's a different component. So you see how it highlights the other place. So you have to be careful when editing existing model, all right? So what I could do for this whole thing is I would, when I get there, you know, I would explode it and reconstruct the drawer. All right. So this one I've already grouped it, and I'll call this cabinet side 1. Then I will just select and explode. You see, one of the things I try to do in this video is to show you different possible ways and different ideas that you can employ when you are modeling. I can clean that part. This part as well. So I select this part as well and make them a group. That's C bottom. So let me come back and it. I press undo. So I'll make that a group, and then I'll make it C bottom as well. Then I come to it and I explode. Right. So I explode, I delete this, I delete this. Careful. Just trying to remove the unnecessary lines. Alright. So now you can see the material is applied to the thing because I exploded it. Right, so I'll select everything there and I'll come here and ensure I choose the default material. All right, so I don't like materials being applied to the object, to the geometries themselves. It makes it difficult to give it a different material later on. So I'll just select all the geometries and remove the materials from that. You see how the geometry is selected. So, and I now come to the group. So it's the group I would put that material into. Right, so I will just remove that with default material. All right, so I'll select the group and then I'll just drop that in. All right, so for this one now, what I'll do there is remember it's still a component, so it's still linked to all other instances of it. If I move, you see move everywhere. All right, so what I'll do is I'll select this and I'll make it I'll make unique. All right, so I'll make it unique. Then I'll come in here and delete the internal part. And the reason I did that is so that I could adjust it later on. So let me just pull this part out, because if I scale that part, I couldn't just edit that part because of the nature of the shape inside. Right, so I just move this guy to midpoint. All right. So I could hide, the top. I'll hide the top, and then I'll hide this cabinet drawer. I'll call this cabinet drawer for TV. All right, so that I could differentiate it in the component section. All right, so from here I could just come and let me just draw a rectangle all the way. Then I'll pull this rectangle to the top, and I'll push it down by 5. Push it in 5, no, push it down by 10 or 10 or 20. Let me do 20. Push it out by 20, push it out by 20. All right, then I'll do this by 20 as well, and then I'll pull this down by, so the total thickness here is 240, so I'll do 220 so that I can have 20 thickness. All right, and I'll make that a group, and I'll just cut that and come inside this component I made, and I'll just paste that right there. So, and put that there, and like that I'm done with that. So I could just come back and turn back on my setup. Right. All right, so you can see I've just replicated this part. All right, so from the looks of things, I now have these two cabinets here that are, tucked into this part. So what I could do from here is I could just start by, so this is 100, it goes all the way 100 out, but it doesn't tell me how much it goes in here. But one of the ways I can know that is it goes from here to this end by 210. So what that means now is if I measure out 210, I measure out 210, that means measure out 210, 210 centimeters, right? Measure out to 10, so that means from there all the way backward, so back from that to 10, I measure 100 centimeters. That means that's the total, that's where this other one starts from. All right, so that's where that starts from. All right, so what I can do from here now is since I haven't made this a component yet, I can just take this and duplicate that. I just duplicate it and bring it to this point. All right, bring it to that point. Then given that it's 100, okay, I'll take this as well. I'll duplicate this and bring it here. Bring it here. Then move it down that point. And I'll duplicate bottom as well. I didn't need to put the bottom, but I already named the bottom. I'll bring it up here. All right, so you see we already have something going on. So I could just pull this, or I'll just scale them. But for the sake of my textures, I will not scale. I'll just pull it in to reach that point. Since it's just a group and not a component, I could do that. So you see, then this guy, I would move this guy. Let me move him again. I'm moving backwards, just backwards, and then see, I already have some things going on there. So I can measure this guy. Okay. All right, so what should actually be here is that this guy would be scaled down to fit in. All right, I think I might have issues push pulling this. Yep, that should happen because I didn't clean that top part when that happened. Didn't clean this guy out. All right, so now you see me using existing geometry because um it's not all the time you have to model everything from scratch, right? So I'll push pull that bottom part, right, to the same level. So I'll just come in here. And remember the video we did where you zoom into weird positions, right? This is where you need the skill from that video. All right, so I will not move this because I need it to remain at that end because that's the total length. So I'll still come inside here and push this out. Don't forget not to press Control so that it won't create an extra geometry. So I'll just pull that out, and then I come here as well and I'll push this out. All right. So next is the other end. All right. So I've done this, so I could just duplicate this and drag it to this end and just put it there. Then I could just measure the middle. And then I will set move this from its middle, duplicate that, and put it right there. So I have the general shape out like that. Then another thing I could do is the thickness of this leg is 60. So I'm just trying to use existing geometries and 60. So that means that's the very middle, right? So, but one other way to get that thing, oh, how do I do that? All right. So from that, I think I used 100. I'll measure 50 out. I measure 50 out, and I'll move it from this very point here, move it to that point where I measured 50. Okay, no, not just that alone. This guy as well. So I'll move it from this point till I get duplicate that, move until I get to that point. All right. So just to maintain what I have here, because the leg has to touch the ground, I don't want to create another one, so I'll just scale them up to just hit this part. And since I scale them up, it still maintains the fact that it's one component being the leg for all of them, but then just the scale on the individual component that was adjusted. All right. So that being said, I have this going on right here. So you see, I haven't really created a new piece of geometry. I'm just duplicating my geometry because of the anatomy of the cabinet. If I didn't spend my time to analyze the cabinet, I would not be able to do what I'm doing. All right. So I'll be modeling and recreating different parts and doing stuff, doing stuff. So but I don't really need to do that because I did my analysis well. All right. So what's left now is the cabinet that goes inside. So I'll just duplicate this guy. I'll duplicate this guy. Remember, it's a component. Place in here, and I can see it doesn't fit in well. Right. So ordinarily, I could just pick up one of these things and scale it like that, and just leave it like that. Still the same cabinet, but I won't do that. I would want him to be drawn to shape, drawn to scale. All right. So what I'll do is I'll select that internal part and I'll delete that. But if I delete that, that happens here as well. So I'll undo that and I'll click on this and make it unique. Make unique. So that will be TV cabinet drawer TV 2. I'll just call it 2. All right. So now it's a unique component. I could just select it and delete the internal part. Then I would scale this part with I'll use my push pull tool to adjust it. Right, adjust it to fit the shape that is made available for it. All right. So then I will just first of all I'll get rid of all my guidelines so I can properly center this guy. So I'll put this right here, then I'll put this right here. Put this very middle, and then I would move this. I'll move this guy from this point to this point. Then I'm just moving down just a little bit to get to that centralized zone. All right. So with that, I've done some adjustment there. Then what I can do now is this sit up small. I call it small because it's a smaller one. Sit up small. Then I just call this C bottom small. Right. So this sit up small, I'll just hide it so I can get this stuff, and I would go ahead and draw that shape there. Push pull it up. Oh no, push pull it up all the way. Then I'll just reduce it by 20 at each side so that I can have side spacing. Then I'll do this by 20 and I'll push it in. So what's the thickness now? This is 200. So I'll do 180 so that I'll have 200 820 thickness there. Then I'll make this a group. I'll cut it and I'll bring it back into the components. So I'll paste in place. Then I have it just where I need it. And then I'll paint that color I want it to be. Then since it's not a component, I could just duplicate it. I could duplicate it and move it from this edge. So I could just place it here. Then I can now go ahead and go back to my outliner. I'll go back to my outliner and I'll turn back my seat up small. And like that, you can see we have finished modeling this shape. All right, so I don't necessarily need to measure the whole thing. I know I was able to get the general shape and all that. And now I just have to delete the guides, and then I'll select everything here and see they're all selected. I could now go ahead and make this whole thing a component. All right, so the first one is center table cabinet, and then I'll make this a component. I'll call it TV table cabinet. All right, so like that, we are done modeling the cabinet and they are ready to be placed in our scene. All right, so don't mind this whole scene here. You know, I did it half and half. All right, so but there are different ways you can achieve the same result in your model. All right, so that being said, that brings us to the end of this particular video. You notice how that I didn't have to paint it separately because I used existing models. All right, so you could decide to model it from scratch the way I did the first one, but my aim in this video is to show you in this whole training is to show you dynamism. I'm not necessarily going to show you a constrained way of doing things. So I just want you to be dynamic in your thinking. So you could decide to model this afresh. You could decide to just, do it the way I did it. If you want to practice, you can model it the way it was modeled and then model it afresh. All right. So for a finishing touch, this back part looks wrong. I mean, it won't be seen, but it makes sense if I should just cover it. All right. So what I'll do here is I just draw a rectangle from this point to this point. All right, so I just draw a rectangle from here. It's going to always be at the wall, so I don't think there's a need for that. There won't be a need for that. All right, so generally this shape is fully done. We are done with that. So there are some ungrouped elements there, but you can decide to name them. But most of the times, remember my reasons for grouping. All right, so this is side one. So I'll just go ahead and give the other sides then label. All right, so you know my reasons for grouping. Grouping is very important. It enables you to navigate around your model so that you can easily turn off and off different parts or different components of your model, which is very important. All right, so we're done with this model, and please, if you have learned something from this, please like, subscribe, share, and thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, see you in the next video.